everybody. I'm Marty Dodson. I'm here with Clay Mills.
Yep.
Clay and I estimate we have written with 4,000 or more people, co-written songs with that many people.
Yep.
So we're going to share today 4 of the biggest things we've learned from 4,000 co-writes.
Man, we get around.
We do.
First thing I want to talk about, probably the most important thing that any co-writer can learn, is the biggest ego in the room needs to be the song.
Yep.
Because so many times, especially early on in my career, I would find myself in situations writing with people that would want to fight for lines or they would want to count lines. Well, they had to make sure they had more lines in the song. And the ego in the room was really their ego.
Yeah.
And the song would suffer. So when I got to Nashville, there was this saying that the song is king. And it was kind of freeing for me because then I didn't have to worry about, am I right? Are they right? Whose line is better? Because my focus became, well, what's best for the song?
Yeah.
And if you throw out a line that's amazing, I'm not going, damn, I got to come out with a better one and knock that one down. I'm thinking that's perfect for the song.
Yeah. It's not a competition.
Right. Yeah.
We're here to make a great song together. It doesn't matter who does what.
Yeah. And I think if you have that attitude going in, then you don't get into the ego battles. There was a famous writer in Nashville when I first got here that people would say he would just railroad the session and just a terrible experience for people. But when I wrote with him, I didn't play any of those ego games with him. Like he had a bunch of hits. Hey, that's great. You've had a bunch of hits. And since I wasn't trying to play the ego game, I never had a problem with him, and we got some good songs. And I think that's where people fail a lot, and they'll blame the other person for the co-write instead of looking at themselves and going, well, maybe my ego was too big for the room.
Right. Yeah, that's great. I think one of the biggest things I've learned is that it's all about putting together the right room.
Yeah.
It's about the right combination of skills. And early on in my career, I was kind of struggling, and I went to my publisher and I said, help me figure out how to set up better rooms or what I need to do. And so he went through some of my best songs and he asked me, what happened in the room when this song was written? And I would say, well, so-and-so played guitar and did the melody and I just pretty much did the lyrics. And after 4 or 5 of those, I'm like, I need to put together rooms in which I'm not playing guitar or doing the melody. And just that little realization changed so many things with me because it gave me some intention about how I set up my co-write. So I'm always asking people, do you play an instrument? Are you good with melody? Because if I get in a room with another lyricist, we're probably going to write a great poem, but we're not going to have great songs. So
right.
I think just paying attention to putting together the right rooms is hugely important.
Yeah, and that's important from the other side of it, not to get too far off subject, but a lot of times I see writers in SongTown go, well, I can't be a good writer because I don't play an instrument. Or I'm not a real songwriter because I only write lyrics. I know Hall of Fame writers that do nothing but lyrics. They don't sing, they don't play an instrument. And that's just as important as, being a world-class lyricist, that's important to a song as the melody is. So I think that people need to get over feeling less than, find out what their strengths are, and then find other people that, like you said, that can complement what they do.
Absolutely. So
my third big tip, because I've seen this a lot over my career, is don't show up, and I may have been guilty of this a few times. Don't show up unprepared or hungover. You want to be professional, So every day when I come into a write, I try to have something started, whether it's a chord progression I'm really digging, a guitar riff, maybe it's a title, maybe it's all of those things. But I like to come in with something.
Yeah.
And I want to be in good working order where, gosh, if you come in and you're tired, you got a hangover, you're probably not going to get the best song that day. And it's not fair to your co-writer who's dedicated that day to write with you, or those few hours to write with you, and you're going to show up and waste their time.
Mm-hmm.
And so I think, especially I've seen a lot of young artists that come to town, and they sometimes are the worst because they're hanging out at Losers, and they're singing, and that's great, but they're drinking all night. They stay too late,
Mm-hmm.
and then they've got nothing the next day. They show up and they're like, well, I don't have anything. What do you got? And they want you to write the song for them. Bad move if you're an artist.
Yeah, I had a couple young artists that have done that, and I just don't write with them again. It's like, I'm not going to set aside a day and come in prepared, and you have nothing.
Yeah.
I think my last one would be that you got to kiss a lot of frogs. It's kind of like dating. You're probably not going to find your soulmate on the first date that you ever go on. And in Songtown, we often have people say, well, I tried co-writing and it's just not for me. And we'll say, how many co-writes did you do? And we'll go, one. I did one and it was just
I went
horrible.
on one date and decided I'm going to live alone for the rest of my life. Never going to have another relationship.
Exactly. And so you're not going to find your tribe in the first couple of tries, most likely. If you do, you're very fortunate, But I think it takes a lot of attempts to get good at co-writing yourself and to learn how to be the best collaborator you can be. But it also takes a lot of time to figure out, what are the best kinds of people for me to work with and who complements my personality and my skills the best and all that kind of stuff. So you got to go out there and kiss some frogs if you want to make it work. But if you look at hits on the charts, almost every one of them is co-written.
Or not just hits on the chart. I mean, look at the whole history of recorded music from the blues to the Beatles to the Rolling Stones to whoever, jazz groups. I mean, the majority of classic standard songs have been co-written throughout the history of music. Now, there's always solo rights, and that's great too, but the majority have been co-written. And it's even more so like that today.
And I think it's because most of us are not world-class at everything.
Well, I am.
Well, you, besides you, that's why I said most. But,
it's
most
all
of us,
me, Marty.
Most of us need help in some area to be great.
Yeah.
So
Agreed.
Hope that's helpful. Check out Sweetwater Gear for all your gear and instruments and all that kind of stuff. Their link is in our show notes along with books. We'd love it if you gave us a review. That really helps us. Our favorite reviews are the 5-star kind. So that's our preference. We'll see you soon.
Cheers.